Cayci Robold, and while I do happen to be convention chair of Equestria LA, I am also a long-time My Little Pony fan. I have been collecting for more than 30 years. So, yeah. My pony collection has 1,770 My Little Ponies in it. So, I am actually qualified to be here right now. Believe it or not. So, you guys excited for this? Yeah! Me too. I've been kind of waiting for this for a year. So, without further ado, I'd like to call up to the stage the creator of My Little Pony, Bonnie Zacherle. And also the creator of the 4th generation of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Lauren Faust. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us here in California. I know, Lauren, you didn't have to travel that far.
No.
In the neighborhood.
Yes, in the neighborhood. So, had you guys met before today?
Not before today, no.
Never.
Yeah, the meeting backstage, it was actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty sweet.
Tears were shed. From me.
That's true.
Just me.
I was overwhelmed. Really. Still am.
So ladies, there are quite a number of people in this room that would attribute god or goddess status to each of you. There they are. So what do each of you think about that?
Do you want to start, Bonnie?
I'm still in disbelief. I have had no idea when I drew those little ponies 33 years ago, maybe even longer than that they would still be alive, really, that they would get past the review stage, that they would even come to market, and let alone to be a great show, and that I would be here today, thanks to you.
Oh, well, and I wouldn't be here today, except thanks to you. And I think I would echo the same statement. It's just a constant state of awe and disbelief that the show is and the brand is blown up the way it has. Just completely unexpected.
It really was.
Yeah. And
it
awesome.
Yes, still is. Really.
It is amazing. We all wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the two of you. So let's go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and a lot of other people too, because one person doesn't do it alone.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go way back. The question for both of you.
That would be for me. Yes?
Were you an artistic child?
Bonnie, why don't we, when you answer a question for both of us, let's just say Bonnie goes first.
I go first
Sure.
because I was there first. Yes, as a matter of fact, in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher said I was a good colorer and a good artist. Beat that.
Well, I think I might be able to beat it.
Oh, here she goes.
I
believe it.
Yeah, I started when I was around 3.
No.
But I had an older brother who was already showing artistic promise, and I was competitive. So when he sat down to draw, I sat down to draw. And then
good
my
for you.
youngest brother, he also sat down to draw, and my mom had 3 artists.
Oh.
And
Was
but
she
yeah,
happy about that?
she is.
Good,
She's very
good.
proud. We yeah, just never stopped. It was like there was a love for it, and then of course, you know, when teachers and parents and friends tell you you're good
Yes,
at it,
you're
that feels
wonderful.
really
Yeah,
good, so
it
you keep
does.
going.
You do. That's what keeps you going. It's true.
Absolutely.
And I had a younger brother who tried to be an artist, and I squelched it. No, it's not as good. And my mother kept his things and didn't keep mine. I'm like, no,
karma.
not really. I think she was just trying to make him feel good.
Aw, well, that's
Aw,
sweet.
that's what a mom does.
Yes, it's true.
So tell us about where each of you went to college, and then what was your first job out of college?
Well, I went to Syracuse University in upper state New York. Go get 'em. Where it's really cold and snowy, and you have to stay in and, you know, do your work. And, but I enjoyed it. It was, for me, a good thing because I wanted to go into art, but I wanted to have the whole college, football games and parties, experience, which I did up there. But when I got out of school, and I majored in illustration and advertising design, and I didn't really have any idea of what I was going to do. I wanted to be an illustrator. And I thought probably I would illustrate children's books because that was kind of my style. My first job was in Boston, the Boston area. Go Boston. Go Sox. I was working for Rustcraft greeting cards, where you use a little humorous kind of, not really juvenile, but funny kind of illustration. Then when I was working there, I wasn't making much money, which is something that a lot of artists have in common. So I was moonlighting at the time for Hasbro. And I would go down after work, and the guy would pick up my stuff, and he said, if you ever get tired of doing greeting cards, come on down and we'll give you a job. So Rustcraft was being bought by Ziff Davis Publishing and melded into Norcross, and they said, oh, things will be fine, don't worry about it. You'll all have jobs. And my boss and his boss were leaving, and I thought, oh, yeah. Handwriting is on the wall. So I left and went to work for Hasbro. And they had no idea what I would do, probably labels, something very exciting. But they threw me into R&D, which was great. I mean, that's a dream job.
Yeah,
it
no
really
kidding. How
is.
old were you at the time?
This was the late 70s?
At Hasbro.
Yeah.
It was, I remember the tall ships and, not that far back.
The 1670s?
It was the bicentennial, remember that?
Yes.
Maybe you were probably a baby.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
well,
a baby.
anyway, I remember 1976. But I don't remember how old I was, but old enough.
Old enough.
And so that's where I worked on Pony for many years. And then, again, because I wasn't getting paid very much, here we go again, I found my dream job at Parker Brothers. It was like a country club. It was beautiful. You look out the cafeteria, and it was like the fourth green, and there were, ponds and beautiful flowers and gentlemen who dressed really nicely and treated you like a lady. And it was a wonderful job, and they paid me very well to play games all day long.
It's kind of awesome.
Dream job, really.
Yeah.
Really. And believe it or not, I left on my own because I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't doing anything. I'm not really a game designer. But so then I went on my own. And that's, sorry, I didn't leave much room for you. You probably are just starting out, aren't you?
Oh, jeez. I wish. No. Let's see. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up near Annapolis, Maryland, and I went to California Institute of the Arts around here, Valencia, California, when I was 18. And I was very lucky. A teacher of mine offered me my first job in my junior year, so I left school to be.
You must have been very good.
Well, you know, it's not unusual for some reason at Cal
Really?
Arts. A lot of kids get plucked out of school before
Not
they graduate.
me. They didn't even want me when I was graduating.
Oh.
Go figure.
Oh. But my teacher offered me, or encouraged me to apply for a position at a studio that no longer exists called Turner Feature Animation to animate, which was my dream job, on a movie called Cats Don't Dance. Thank you.
Really?
I love that movie. Yeah, so that was where I got my start.
Cool.
Okay.
And that was it?
No, well, I went on.
Short history.
I was an animator, like literally back in the olden days when people put paper between their fingers before computers. I was an animator for about 6 years. I worked on another movie called The Iron Giant. Thank you.
Good movie. That was a good movie.
Wasn't it?
That was beautiful.
Yeah. And then the industry started to change around that time after that movie, and CG was on the rise and 2D was on the decline. And I still wanted to draw, so like all my animator friends were learning Maya, learning how to animate on the computer, and I looked into switching into storyboarding. Got a job on a show called The Powerpuff Girls. Gee whiz. Storyboarded on that show, met my husband, Craig McCracken, and found that as a storyboarder, you know, it was a really excellent opportunity on Powerpuff Girls because they run their shows, the artists write their episodes. So
Wow.
the writing staff gives us kind of an outline, like here's the basic idea of how the story's going to work, and then the storyboarders got to write it, and I found that I liked to write my stories with words first, and then I drew it, so that, you know, I moved on to writing scripts from there, which was a surprise for me, because I wanted to draw.
But it's all up here.
It is. Well, you just write what you would be drawing on the panel.
Right.
You're a visual thinker, so you just write the visuals. My husband and I went on to produce a show together on Cartoon Network called Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Thank God, you guys.
That's good.
And I did a lot on that show. I co-produced it. I was the head of story. I wrote a lot of the episodes, actually, and supervised the storyboarding staff. And then after that, I did my little foray into toys, which didn't work out so well for me.
Really?
I had a line of dolls in F.A. Schwartz called Milky Way and the Galaxy Girls.
See, you have fans.
It didn't do so great, unfortunately.
Well,
the dolls came out the year the economy crashed, so nobody was going to buy a $50
timing
doll
is
that
everything.
Christmas.
You know, you
Yeah.
can't plan for that.
Yeah. So, but the thing that was great about Milky Way and the Galaxy Girls was that when I went to pitch it to Hasbro, they said, yeah, we really like that, but do you want to do My Little Pony?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And it was my favorite toy when I was a kid.
you
Absolute favorite. No Barbies. I liked Strawberry Shortcake, but Pony was the best. So I tested the waters out, and then I went on to create My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
So the toy came first?
What's that?
The toy came first?
No. They based the toy line off of the show.
Okay. That's
So
what it
yeah,
was.
we did the show first,
Okay.
and then they created the G4 toy line based off of
that.
the artwork that we were
As
doing
well
on the
they
show.
should.
Yeah, and since
Really.
then, I worked on my husband's new show, Wander Over Yonder, for a little while. And oh my God, you guys, seriously. And now I'm developing and am set to direct a movie for Sony Pictures Animation called Medusa. So.
Great.
All right. We got the history out of the way.
Yeah,
but
really.
Yeah, sorry.
It's longer than mine.
Yeah, I know. I was going to keep it short.
That's okay. As long as it's successful, that's what matters, really.
Well, Bonnie, let's go back again. And what inspired you to create My Little Pony in the first place?
Well, in fact, my father was a veterinarian and a career officer in the Army. And we lived in Japan for a short time. Where is that Japanese contingent? There's one here, believe it or not.
Yeah, Japan PonyCon guys
Yeah,
are
there
here.
he is. Anyway, so I lived in Japan when I was from 4 to 5. And because my father was the head of the, not stables, it was really kennels for where, all the animals were quarantined, coming and going out of Japan. There was a Korean pack pony named Knicker. And, because my father was in charge of the place, I got to ride her, Kim, whatever it was, around, kind of like pony, no genders there. But anyway, and I always wanted a pony of my own, or really a horse when I got older. But I never got one, because by the time we retired from the Army, my father retired, and we had our so-called dream house in the country. I was in high school, and we lived far, far away from anyone, and I never, got a chance to have my horse. So when I went to work for Hasbro, I thought, well, what toys did I play with? I didn't play with dolls like you. I wasn't into that. And all I ever wanted was a horse. So I created a line of small horses that were doll-like, and I pushed them and presented them for years. And
How many years did it take?
well, I pushed it for, I think, 3 years. It was turned down for 3 years. Then there was a year in between where I kind of gave up. And
What did your bosses say? What was the reason why?
How do you know this story?
I do.
My boss said, Bonnie, little girls are not like you. They like to cook and clean and iron. That's what he said. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But the next year, amazingly, he came out with a very similar product. See, when you are in the business, you go through a lot of steps. You present to your own. I presented to R&D, and if it doesn't get beyond R&D, marketing doesn't see it. But anyway, his idea was to make a big pony made out of styrene, which I hate. It's clunky and it's brittle and it's not fun. And it had a winking eye and tail and whatever. And little girls were supposed to take this to bed and cuddle with it. Well, really, they'd get here and there. It wasn't a good idea. But his boss, the marketing director, took it home to his wife, a wise woman, who said, yeah, this is nice, but little girls like soft and cuddly things. Shrink it down to about this big, make it soft and cuddly, and, the combable tail and mane, and it'll be played with like a doll. So he came to me and he said, Bonnie, don't change a thing, just shrink it down, do this, don't even move a hoof, same thing. And so that's what I did, and
Now we have
it
My
worked.
Little Pony.
Yeah, really.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
I'm really glad that the folks at Hasbro came to their senses.
Well,
And for Lauren, did you experience similar kinds of sexism or expectations when creating content for young females?
Oh, God, constantly.
always,
I
always,
still do.
sure.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. You know, I had thought after I had worked on Powerpuff Girls, my husband and I both thought that was proof. You know, that was proof that content for girls could be successful, could be profitable, and that you could step away from the stereotypes.
Right.
And we were shocked that, you know, just a year after My Little Pony was finished with its final season, there was like a mandate from the people up above, no girl shows, no girl shows. And I've pitched several shows that, you know, I constantly get the comments, we like it and it's great, but we don't think girl shows will sell, or we already have one girl show and that's enough for us. That's what happened to Super Best Friends Forever. Yeah. So it still happens. We still get a lot of debates over what girls are and aren't interested in. I remember with Pony, you know, there was a lot of debate over whether or not girls would like a character like Rainbow Dash. That she was too boyish, she was too tough, she was too, and my answer to them was like, we've got Rarity and Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, the girls who like the very girly stuff, which is great and wonderful. They've got 3 characters, but what about the other little girls?
That's
you
right.
know, who do they get to stick? Who do they get to?
Yeah.
Same with Applejack, and you know, so it unfortunately it continues to this day.
Sure.
You know, debates over whether or not content with girls will be profitable is still a question, even after what Frozen just did last year, breaking all those records. There's still like, you know, why are we making movies about girls? It's like, when's it gonna stop? So yeah,
I know.
soon, hopefully.
So, did they ever tell you to make Fluttershy like iron or vacuum or anything?
No, thank goodness I never got that.
See, we have progressed a little bit.
Yes.
Really.
We never got that. I think one of the most memorable ones I got on Friendship is Magic was I got a note when we wrote the ending to the second episode, The Ticketmaster, that they wanted, and I don't remember if it came from the Hub or from Hasbro, but they wanted all the girls at the end of the episode to apologize to Twilight for being selfish. Twilight had 2 tickets to go to a ball, and she couldn't decide which one of her friends to give it to, and they all were kind of campaigning for that ticket, and they all had kind of really important personal reasons to get it. And at the end of it, Twilight had a little breakdown, she succumbed under the stress, and they wanted me to have the other 5 characters apologize, not just apologize, but apologize for being selfish. And I said, and to their credit, they listened to me. I said, would you tell a girl in high school that she shouldn't apply for a scholarship because there's other girls who want that scholarship? You know?
Good point. Absolutely.
And they backed down immediately. I made an excellent
Good.
point. They all apologized for pressuring her, because it's important that girls apologize for something.
We're always apologizing.
Yes, but so those types of things come up, and while they didn't ask me to make a homemaker pony or an ironing pony, which might have been funny, she's got an iron on her butt. She loves to iron.
Really?
Yeah, season 6.
Someone's
Though
gonna
I never
draw
got
that
any of
now.
that stuff, I get the other things. You know, another one was in Fall Weather Friends. You know, they didn't want Rainbow Dash calling Twilight a nerd, so we had to call her an egghead. Somehow that was a little. But there was originally, they felt really sorry for Twilight, and they wanted her to not look sad when she was being called names.
Really?
Yeah, and I said, like, well, kids are going to go out into the world, and they're going to meet other kids who are going to call them names. Let's make Twilight be a good example of what you
Sure.
should do, which was to not stoop to her level, but not tolerate it either. instead of just, there was a version in the storyboards where Twilight was just standing there with this big dumb smile on her face while Rainbow Dash was insulting her, and I made them change it back.
Haven't we all done that anyway? Oh, yes.
So,
Well, Lauren, I've always wondered is which came first, the original 6 G1 ponies that you liked, or there being 6 girl archetypes? Like, which was put onto the other?
I would say that the characters came first, because when I was developing the show, I started with the characters, and I went to the ponies I played with when I was little, and pulled out the ones that meant the most to me, the ones that I played with the most, the ones, and kind of analyzed the personalities that I gave them when I was a kid. And my very original pitch was with all the characters as an 80s pony, a G1 version of each of them. And as I was developing them, I kind of realized that they were all just skewing towards these archetypes, and that I decided to shine a spotlight on those archetypes even more, and where I started with the ponies I played with when I was a kid and the personalities I gave them, I expanded on that with those archetypes in mind.
So those are your favorite 6?
They were, well, no, one of my second favorite pony didn't quite make the mix.
Who was your second favorite pony?
Okay, so I think probably a lot of you know my favorite is Firefly. But my second favorite was actually Seashell.
Aw. So for those of you in the audience who don't know, Seashell is a G1 pony in a very rare pose where she's sitting down on her back legs. So she's kind of like a sitting pony. And how in your childhood stories did a pony with sitting back legs and is stuck that way come into play?
Well, I think she was my favorite because of her color combination.
Which
purple,
was?
She's purple and green.
Oh, nice.
But when I was playing with her and her counterpart Bubbles, the other sitting pony, I don't know what inspired me to do this, but I actually made them handicapped. And that's how I played with them. Yeah, they just, they couldn't use their back legs, but, they were still part of the gang and part of the group. And like I said, Seashell was my favorite, so she was always in a starring role in all of my adventures.
So Firefly would always play with Seashell?
What's that?
Firefly would always play with Seashell?
Oh, totally.
Why not?
Now, did Seashell's handicap, I'll call it, did that come into play at all with why Scootaloo can't fly?
Maybe subconsciously, but not purposefully. No, I think when I was developing the Cutie Mark Crusaders and I was trying to, I already had 2 Pegasus, and originally Apple Bloom was alone in her quest for Cutie Mark, and Hasbro asked me to include Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo, and I was trying to figure out their issues, their characters, and they're all shooting for their Cutie Mark. They're all trying to find who they are, and Scootaloo, I thought it would be cute to be a girl who's like a late bloomer, was the first thought. She's just a late bloomer. The other little Pegasus can fly, and she can't, and she just wants to fly. And the more I developed it out, the more I thought about it, I just thought, in a weird sort of way, it would be kind of beautiful if she didn't ever get to fly, because everybody has dreams. Everybody has a multitude of dreams that they have in their life, and we don't get all of them. And to show a character, who doesn't get that dream and how she deals with it and how she finds happiness in other places, I thought could be a really beautiful story.
That's really sweet. So the next question is then for Bonnie. 6 ponies seems to be some sort of a magic number. So how did My Pretty Pony then become 6 My Little Ponies?
Well, in the toy business, everything is collectible. Does that ring true? Yes.
Yes.
and
Oh,
yes.
Didn't it work?
Yes, it did. It did on me.
This is proof. This is proof, really.
Me too. Badly.
I think you can all relate to that, can you not? Anyway,
So
the short answer.
did you design those 6 though?
I designed those 6, but as I was told to do, when you work for a company, you have to do what they tell you or else they don't pay you. Simple as that. But they were all exactly the same as the original My Pretty Pony, which was a Palomino, and just shrunk down. And the colors came about when my friend, who was marketing director, whatever, of Girls' Toys at the time, maybe there weren't even Girls' Toys, I'm not sure. But she said, Bonnie, what do you think of pink and purple? I said, get out of my office. Really, really. And she said, well, little girls like pink and purple. I said, I don't care. She was a friend of mine. I wouldn't have done that to my boss necessarily. But I was a preschool toy designer, and in preschool, really, it wasn't girls or boys, and despite what you think, toy designers don't say, pink is for girls and blue is for boys and blah, 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 and trucks are for boys and whatever, and never the twain shall meet. But somehow it kind of works out that way. So she said, well, why don't we test it? I said, go ahead. And the rest, as they say, is history. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So then this begs the question, this is for both of you. How often does the marketing department interfere with your artistic vision?
It's always a good answer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Did you ever see Big? That wasn't so far off. All these adults telling a kid, in essence, what they should be doing, what they should like, what they shouldn't like, how they should play, how they shouldn't play. When I was at Hasbro, our one edict, they have all these bromides. Space does not sell. Star Wars came out,
Yeah. Yep.
What can
Yeah.
I say?
It's yeah.
Do they interfere that much with you?
It's surprising. I've been mostly lucky in animation. You get a lot of development executives will come in and give their opinions about stuff a lot. You have to deal with them more, but their goals are to get people to watch the show.
Sure.
It's marketing a little bit less. In fact, My Little Pony was probably the thing I had to deal with marketing the most, and
Because it was a product.
because there was a product,
Driven,
yes.
right.
So we were developing a show, but that also had to make toys that sold.
Right.
The season 1 wasn't too bad. They decided they wanted to make a hot air balloon, and I had to find a place for it. But a couple of other things like that. But they were pretty good, actually, about letting me figure out where it needed to go, at least in season 1.
Yeah.
It's not so much, but I also kind of go out of my way to try to work for places that aren't guided by that.
Right.
After My Little Pony, I got offered a lot of jobs in more licensing kind of
Nice.
things, and that was always an issue. I'm like, well, maybe this makes a really great image on a box, but it doesn't necessarily make a good TV show.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite sure I got it a lot less than you.
Well, yeah. And I shouldn't be too hard on them. I mean, they're trying to make money, and they want to
Yeah,
be successful.
it's a business.
But everyone thinks they know. I mean, I thought I knew that, Palominos and dappled grays were the way to go. Well, I guess I was wrong.
That probably would have worked too. Those would have worked on me too.
Yeah, really. You never know.
So what was the process like, Bonnie, back in the 70s and 80s with working with the 3D sculptors and the other toy designers? Like, at what part in the process were you, and then what happened after that?
Well, it's pretty amazing. I teach school and I teach art, and, they say, well, how do you design a toy? I said, I just drew it. And then you give it to a sculptor, and, they have to take your drawing and figure out what it looks like in every conceivable situation, back, rear, upper, lower, from the side, 3/4. And I don't do detailed drawings. I don't know if you do. But I didn't like that much. So you have to have a sculptor that can see your vision and knows better than you what it looks like in 3 dimension. And I had some good sculptors. Then you have engineers who tell you, well, it can't be pulled, and you have to have this, and there are undercuts here, and moldability, and all sorts of issues. Oops. See, it's going fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, there's nothing like dealing with other creative people. I mean, it's so much fun working in toys and in games. We just had a blast all the time. We really did have fun. I bet you had fun too.
Yes. Get to draw all day.
And Lauren, how much did you work with the Hasbro toy designers in creating Generation 4, the toys?
Not too much, I have to admit. The initial drawings that I did for the production Bible when I pitched the show was really all they had to go off of at first. They sent me some prototype sculpts based off of that I thought were pretty good, except for the front. The eyes were a little too far apart. I actually think those sculpts ended up being the Funko sculpts.
No kidding.
Yeah, they certainly look like them. I love those, by the way. But I did have to do when we started production. I had to do a turn of the basic pony body, and that's when I brought out my old animating skills. Put the paper between the fingers and tried to make sure that all the volumes moved in this.
She knows about this more than I do, really.
So and the toys, the initial toys that came out, with the combable hair and stuff, were different than those original sculpts. But to be perfectly honest, they didn't consult with me that much on it, and that was fine by me. I was really busy on the show.
Fair enough.
And you weren't working for them.
No,
Really.
yeah, exactly.
Big difference, because they can just come into your office and say, no, we changed this.
Yeah. The only thing they asked me to change was in the original designs, their hooves and the top of their ears came to corners, nice solid corners, and for some reason they just thought those needed to be round. And I was like, okay.
Perhaps child safety?
What?
Child safety?
Maybe.
You know,
I
put them
honest
in
to
the
God, I think they might have said that sharp corners are for boys and round corners.
wow.
I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
They just felt like it's aggressive and it's assertive and it needs to be soft. I'm like, okay.
So this question is for both of you, and if you could go back and change one thing about those 6 toys, what would it be, if anything?
Well, I was told to make them static, and they were so static, they're like,
They just standing there.
and no, they just stand there, but like little statues. And, and they didn't have any personalities. I named them because of their colors, and
Did you name them?
I think I did.
Awesome.
Don't ask me what they are now. I'm not sure.
I know.
I'm sure you know. You collectors know way more than I do about what I did, really. But what was the question?
What would you change?
Oh, change. I have said this before. I wanted them to be posable, or at least in a pose, not just like that. Like the Trojan horse. That was not my idea. I would have liked them to have been more animated.
Yeah.
And she did that, certainly.
I think for me, the toys, and I'll just talk about the first ones that came out, was the Rainbow Dashes figurines, her eye. I mean, it sounds so specific, But, because Rainbow Dash was our tomboy, for lack of a better term, there's subtle differences in each of the main cast's design, and Rainbow Dash had a more dynamic eyes. She had that really wide open eyeball, and her eyelashes, 3 little eyelashes, were perfectly straight. They weren't curved or curled, just to make it a little more dynamic and actually, honest to God, a little more aggressive. And I do remember talking with someone about that it was too aggressive. And they gave her a very soft little S-curve kind of half lid to just make her, they said, softer so girls would like her better. And I'm like, that's not her personality. That's not who she is. So that's my one little thing. And then, and then I have like the regular complaints, like I don't like ponies driving cars. And so like, there's a few things that I thought kind of maybe skewed, especially in the early years when the show first came out, that kind of skewed away from the rules of the world building, and cars in particular really bothered me.
Trains are okay?
Not really. They don't need trains. They're horses.
Both of you have in common that you put something in motion and then relatively quickly stepped away. Bonnie, you weren't working for Hasbro anymore when My Little Pony was in the stores.
That's right.
So how do each of you feel about seeing something that you got the ball rolling on continue to be so successful?
Darn. I worked at Hasbro for 5 years. Did I ever have a big hit? No. I did redesign Mr. Potato Head.
Oh, awesome.
And I thought that would be my claim to fame.
That's pretty good.
I think I was wrong. And Alan Hassenfeld came up to me as I was leaving Hasbro to go to the country club. And he said, Bonnie, you never know, Pony might make it. I'm like, yeah, that's what you say, all that girls, And I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't get a promotion. I got $1 to sign the patent away so that they owned it.
Man.
That and other considerations, which was my salary. So they did pay me. But really, darn.
I think my answer is a little different. I have a lot of mixed feelings, and I think I've mentioned it in interviews before, so many of you may have heard this before. I love that the show's lived on, and more than anything, I love the effect that it's had on so many people, and it means more to me than anything. And I'm eternally grateful and happy for that. But on the other hand, I am sad because I left because I had a vision of how I wanted the stories to go and what I wanted these characters to do, and it just, for a number of reasons, it just became impossible for me to continue with this vision that I had, and it wasn't worth it for me to stay. So there will always be a part of me that kind of mourns the stuff I didn't get to do that I wanted to do, and worries too that I'll never get the chance again. So it's a little bittersweet for me. I'll be honest.
Keep trying. Keep going.
Thank you,
You're doing
Bonnie.
wonderful, really.
Thank you.
And that is the lesson, to persevere.
Yeah.
And stick to your guns, that you want it to be done the right way.
Yeah, that was important to me, and it just became too impossible, and I didn't want to compromise.
Yep, I understand.
Thank you.
This question is for both of you, and what are you most proud of across your entire career thus far?
Most proud, I'm sorry, what?
What are you most proud of in your career so far?
This.
How can you do any better?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is beyond comprehension. I never
Yeah.
would have dreamt that this would
Yeah.
be possible.
And I should clarify, I don't mean the show. I'm very proud of the show, but I mean this.
Now, each of you have changed and touched each other's lives. Do you have anything to say to each other?
Oh, God. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Really.
I'm going to tear up again. I swear, but before this show even happened, I can't begin to tell you what this toy meant to me. I'm a creative person and I'm a storyteller, and before I ever landed this show, I used to say all the time that my creative brain developed because of the way I played with these toys.
And I agree with you. You took Pony so far beyond that little clunky toy. I mean, and that's why it is a great toy, because children have to add their own personalities and creativity to it. Really.
And it inspired me, and I'm the
Boy,
person I am because
I
of
guess
those
so.
toys,
I
because
guess
of
so.
you.
Oh,
So
well.
thank you.
Thank you, really.
Well, you guys, we have one more surprise. Lauren, I believe you have something?
Yes. I wonder if you could do me a favor, Bonnie,
Sure.
as your biggest fan. I was wondering if you would sign this from me.
I'd be happy to.
I didn't have this when I was a kid, but I got this 15 years ago when
Wow.
eBay started.
Wow. Oh,
And I
that's
got
great.
one with a hat.
Wonderful.
It's the hair's a little messed up and
I
one
think
of the
she's
eyes is broken. But
She's in great shape.
she's
really.
pretty good, right? So I was wondering if you could sign Cutie Mark style.
Okay.
She's putting hearts on it, you guys. She's giving it a cutie mark. Aww. You're gonna make me cry.